The following program is presented by the Far East Broadcasting Company because stories of people living out the gospel with their lives inspire all of us. FEBC, taking Christ to the world through radio and new media. Learn more at FEBC.org.
After you've lived with characters for a while, and it was the same with Larry, they just become characters, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's what Larry would do, that's what he would say, and it's you start thinking in character, and of course they come to life in your own mind, in my mind.
The voice of Larry the Cucumber on Veggie Tales, Mike Nawrocki, has a new animated project, and you'll learn about it now on First Person. Welcome, I'm Wayne Shepherd. We'll introduce you to Mike and the Dead Sea Squirrels when we start in just a moment. These weekly interviews are for the purpose of meeting people from all walks of life who have given their life in service to Jesus Christ and His kingdom. We've talked with hundreds of people through the years. You can stream any or all of the interviews at firstpersoninterview.com or download our free smartphone app and use it to download interviews and listen at your convenience. Search for First Person Interview in your app store. The animated characters of Veggie Tales have been teaching biblical values to children for many years now. Created by Phil Vischer and Mike Nawrocki, Bob and Larry and the whole gang have endeared themselves to many. Well, let's catch up on Mike Nawrocki's life and learn about his new animated children's project, the Dead Sea Squirrels. We'll place a link with more information at firstpersoninterview.com.
Up until 2016, I was with Big Idea Veggie Tales. Obviously started the company along with Phil Vischer in 1993. And that was, nearly... 23, I'm doing the math here, maybe 23 years.
It was a while ago.
It was a while ago, and left Big Idea full-time in 2016 for what God had next for me, which I wasn't entirely sure what that would be. I had worked in the past a number of times with Steve Taylor, whom you might recognize that name from the past as well, record producer and artist and filmmaker. Steve had helped start a film school at Lipscomb University in Nashville, one of the founding members of that school. And, when I left Big Idea, I got together with him and I said, hey, Steve, what have you been up to? And he started telling me about what was happening at the school and all the exciting things, and brought me in to meet the dean. And they asked me, so have you ever considered teaching? And the answer was yes, I actually had. And, and over the course of the next couple of years, I actually enrolled in the Masters of Fine Arts program there, as a student while I was their artist in residence as well. And so I ended up graduating with an MFA in film in 2019. And I had spent my whole career in the animation industry, but so there was a lot that I knew, but there was also a lot that I learned, and I needed to get my academic credentials to be able to teach. And so I've been teaching there since 2019 full time. But in the midst of all that kind of going on parallel, I had a concept for a new animated property a number of years ago called the Dead Sea Squirrels. Had that nut of an idea in my brain, and so
no pun intended. Okay,
exactly.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And so when I finished, with Big Idea, I started to shop that around, and Dan Lynch, who's a friend of mine now, my literary agent, actually encouraged me to think about it as an early reader series. So I kind of developed it into an idea of an early reader series, and then pitched that to Tyndale Publishers in Chicago. They're near you, Linda Howard there, and they loved it, and did a 6-book deal with them that's now extended into a 12-book deal. So I was writing all of those books as I was going along, hoping to, obviously just loving the experience of writing the books, but then, in the back of my mind, wanting one day to develop that into an animation series. And so those, and then, writing on other projects. I did a project with Michael W. Smith, the Nighty Night series, a couple years ago, which was a lot of fun working with him and his son, Tyler. And a couple things here and there, but that's been the bulk of what I've been up to the last several years.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about Dead Sea Squirrels in a few moments here, but I'm just wondering, back when you were a college student back in the day, could you have pictured yourself as a instructor, professor if you will, in college.
No, no, I could not have. And it's really, it's so funny because I'm an introvert, I think, at heart. And so, getting up and, publicly speaking every day would be something that I would not see for myself. That's kind of why I got into puppetry. I'd love to entertain people, but I'd love to be behind a curtain so nobody would look at me. So,
Interesting.
but I've found now that, I'm comfortable in that space. I love it. I especially love working with the students. Many of whom grew up on Veggie Tales, as you can imagine, in their early 20s or late teens. So it's just a really, an amazing time in my life, and I'm just so thankful to have the opportunity to do that now.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about the Dead Sea Squirrels. I was thinking about this, and I woke up thinking, with all the biblical themes and places that you could have chosen, why did you choose the Dead Sea as a marker for this series?
At the heart of me lies a really bad pun waiting to happen. So so the concept for the series, the kernel or the nut of that idea was, what if we had a couple of characters who could come forward in time, from ancient days to the modern world. And of course, the Dead Sea Squirrels, were found in caves near the Dead Sea. And, but what if they were, squirrels instead of squirrels?
Not squirrels, but squirrels.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay. So it's a couple, Merle and Pearl Squirrel, from Galilee. So they, grew up near Galilee. Merle's from Nazareth, and, Pearl's from Tiberias. We get into that in the series later. But Merle had always wanted to take a vacation to the Dead Sea because he heard that you can't sink. So he fashioned like a little handmade raft and just sort of took a journey down the Jordan. Pearl wasn't too happy about him not having much of a plan after that. They actually, they spent some time sunbathing and swimming, but then found out that it's a desert and it's not hospitable to squirrels. And so then they go looking for shade because they're desperate, and they end up getting trapped in a cave. And of course they're salt and crust. They've already been salinated by swimming all day, and so they end up basically preserved in time for 2,000 years until they're found by a little boy named Michael, 10-year-old kid who is with his dad on an archaeological dig near the Dead Sea. And he thinks that these two dehydrated squirrels, petrified squirrels, will make great souvenirs. So he brings them back home with him to Tennessee, leaves them on his dresser with an open window, and it rains that night. And
just add water.
And boom, they're ready to go. So that's sort of the kind of the backstory on all that.
Well, it's fun and it's whimsical, but I know there's, of course, a lot of biblical thinking that goes into the storylines, and we'll talk about that. But in the sense of character development, I mean, there had to be something about this idea that just thought, we could make something with this. We could teach kids with this.
Yeah. So the kid characters in this series are inspired by my son and his childhood friends, and so that character development came from that real life. Okay, what was my son like as a 10-year-old kid? His friend Justin, his friend Selah, who we've named Sadie for the episodes, and how the way they interact and kind of how carefree they are. And then the squirrels, just maybe these kooky grandparents that Michael never had. Merle and, Pearl is much more the wise one and the practical one. And Merle is just, he loves to experiment, loves to kind of go off the handle. So just really fun. But the fact that they were around during the time of Christ and, witnessed the Sermon on the Mount, experienced the life of Jesus and the apostles, they have that knowledge to share with Michael. And the first 6 books in the series are kind of about how they adjust to life in the modern world, with, Michael, while going to school with Michael, figuring out, okay, how the modern world works. And then, Michael's going through his issues that he has as a 10-year-old boy. And then the squirrels are speaking wisdom into the issues that he's going through from a biblical perspective. And then the next 6 books, they take a trip back to Israel, modern day Israel, where they retrace the life and ministry of Jesus as, kind of hijinks ensue around that. And there's a big, kind of dramatic story arc that happens around that. But It just leaves a great opportunity to talk about stuff like that.
Yeah. I love how you're talking about them like they're your friends. I mean, you're so into this, right? I mean, they have to be real to you in a sense, don't they?
Oh, they really do. It's so funny, because after you've lived with characters for a while, and it was the same with Larry. They just become characters, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's what Larry would do. That's what he would say, and it's you start thinking in character, and of course they come to life in your own mind, in my mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who won't let you stop being Larry, I'm sure.
I don't mind.
Right?
I'll be Larry anytime you like.
Okay, all right. I wasn't asking.
All right,
you volunteered. Let the record show that you volunteered.
That's right.
So give me just a quick example of one of the lessons that's taught by Merle and Pearl.
Sure. So, the first episode, the pilot episode, which is funded, by the way, we're almost done with it. We'll be posting that next month. But it is a lesson in honoring your father and mother. And so both Michael learns that lesson, and Merle and Pearl learn that, because it's the episode where they get stuck in the cave. Merle's father had always warned him to never go into a cave, and Pearl thinks that's wise advice. In fact, Moses said it, and then and actually. Pearl says that Paul said it, and actually, Merle corrects her. Well, actually, Moses said it first, and then the correction was actually God said it first, and so, so not following his parents' advice gets him into trouble. And then Michael, in the same regard, goes into a cave. He and Justin are exploring this cave without an experienced guide, against his dad's wishes, and they get into a bunch of trouble too. So they experience the downside of what it means to not obey your parents, not listen to your parents, because the second part of that is you will live longer. So that's one example. In the second book, it's a treat others how you would like to be treated message. And, Michael's dealing with a bully in fifth grade. And so Merle and Pearl share that wisdom from Sermon on the Mount with Michael. So, so it's those types of lessons, those life lessons, those biblical principles that kids can apply to their everyday lives is what the series tackles.
We'll learn more about the Dead Sea Squirrels as we continue to talk with Mike Nawrocki on this edition of First Person. And there are so many stories of God at work through the Far East Broadcasting Company. We just had to find a way to tell more.
Well, Wayne, hearing all these testimonies has absolutely changed my life. And I want to use a podcast to be able to go deeper with some of the real stories that I get to see as the gospel's going out all around the world. And these stories will change your life too.
So listen to the new weekly podcast, Until All Have Heard, from FEBC. Listen at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. Or go to febc.org. My guest is Mike Nawrocki, who is the creator of this new series, right, Mike?
That's right.
And creator and a whole lot of other titles tacked onto that as well. We'll talk about the ins and outs of how you go about creating this series, like this new animated series, Dead Sea Squirrels, that sprang from the book series that Mike has done, Dead Sea Squirrels. What age group is this aimed at, Mike?
So the books are early reader, so really first through fifth grades. Or, and some kids begin reading on their own in kindergarten. But that's where the book series is tailored. And I think, very similar to the animated series. Probably younger kids can enjoy it too, because obviously there's no reading involved. So my hope this is, basically preschool through fifth grade.
Okay. And where does the animated project, where is it right now? You said that there is an episode that's been produced?
Yeah. So we are currently, finishing up animation on that. The way this is working out is really cool, because I mentioned, I'm at Lipscomb University as a professor. Steve Taylor, founding of the film school, founded the film school there. Tom Bancroft, who is another good friend of mine, who I worked with for a number of years at Big Idea, whom we hired from Disney. He was one of the top animators at Disney, worked on The Lion King, Little Mermaid, Mulan, films like that. He founded the animation program there. And so we've really concentrated there on, just working with professors who are practitioners in the arts, very just dedicated to continue to work and make stuff, and just have a very entrepreneurial spirit with what we're teaching.
these are practicing professionals who are academics now as well. So it's really kind of a unique way to approach this, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think a real 21st century way to approach academics and entertainment, because we want to be able to train students to go out and find jobs. And, and what better way to do that than to actually get to build your resume while you're in college. And so the idea hatched between Steve and Tom and I. It's like, what if we figure out a way to produce this series out of the university? It's a lot of animation, so we can't do it all there. We can, but for a 22-minute episode, certainly we could do a couple minutes of animation using students, and then work with an outside studio, to do the lion's share. But students, instead of going to work at Starbucks for $10-15 an hour, they can work on the show for that amount and build up their portfolio and their resume.
Sounds like a fabulous experience for the students.
Oh yeah, it's been tremendous, and so we worked with we have faculty mentors and as leads. So Tim Hodge, who also worked with me at Big Idea for a number of years, another Disney artist, he headed up the storyboard team. So it was Tim and a couple of students, storyboarding, and then once it moved into animation and editing, we had other students involved. And so all along the way, there's been a group of students who are contributing to this. And then we're working with a studio outside called Muck Putty Studios. They're in New Zealand, and then we'll bring it back and post it here in Nashville. Working with Kurt Heineke on music again. Steve Taylor's
from
also
Veggie Tales days.
Yeah. From Veggie Tales days, and Steve Taylor is obviously an accomplished songwriter and musician, and he's working with me in music as well on the show. So, yeah, it really is neat. And so we found a couple of really generous donors who donated, loved the cause that we were going for, and donated enough money for us to scratch together a pilot episode. And so we're in the midst of finishing that, I mentioned we're posting in March, but now we're raising money for an entire series. We're trying to crowdfund that through Kickstarter. We just launched actually today. We're super excited about that, and if we can do that, it'll give us the opportunity to create a whole series and bring it to a license it out to a streaming service or several streaming services.
How many episodes do you have planned?
For the immediate fundraiser, we have 6 episodes that we're looking to fund.
That's $1 million plus.
Yeah, that's $1.2 million. Typically, we're at about $200,000 an episode is what we're looking at, which is if you look at animation production, that's a bargain.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know much about it, but that doesn't seem like a lot of money to me.
Yeah, so if you look at kind of the real top end of the world of animation is Pixar, and they are at about $1 million a minute. So if you watch a 90-minute Pixar movie, that costs $90 million plus to produce, and $1 million would be cheap for them. But typical TV animation is around $20,000 a minute, or 15 or 20, and we're sitting about $10,000.
So you'll be competitive in that environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think from a price perspective, very competitive, but then also in a quality very, very competitive to what is available now on TV.
Yeah. Okay. I'm assuming that Mike Nawrocki's voice is going to be heard in this series too, right?
That is correct. Yes, I am Merle the squirrel. So
you've got top billing there. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I wanted to open it up, and but I got so comfortable with Merle after developing it for so long. It's like I knew what he's supposed to sound like. So.
An alter ego, huh?
That's right.
That's funny. Well, this is it's a lot of fun. Dead Sea Squirrels, and I'm a grandpa. I've got a 3-year-old grandson that I can't wait to get to see what you guys produce. A lot of fun, but at the same time, there's more than fun behind this. What's driving this? What's your ultimate goal here, Mike?
Yeah, I have felt a call since the beginning of my career to help kids and to provide resources for parents to help them pass biblical values onto their kids. It's what we did with Veggie Tales all those years, what I hope to continue to do with Squirrels. And in a way, Squirrels offers up a different opportunity that's much so with Veggie Tales, we were very clear at the beginning to say we are never going to show Jesus as a vegetable because it's too irreverent. And so that limited the amount of New Testament stories we could tell, where Jesus was so central in all of that, and the person of Christ. And so this is a great opportunity to tell more New Testament stories to kids. And then really the next 6 books, in the series, the books 7 through 12, deal directly with the life and ministry of Christ in Israel, as the kids, try to re-rescue the squirrels and chase them around the country. So it's a great opportunity for kids to get to know, the geography of Israel, where Jesus was, born, had his ministry, where he was baptized, all of that, which, I think it's just a fun way to get kids interested in the Bible and the world of the Bible, but ultimately to teach them about Jesus and what it means to have a relationship with God.
Yeah, that's why we are so excited about this, Mike. And you have all the experience in the world with this kind of thing, and that's wonderful. But I'm sure that you also seek input from others, child development people, for instance, to say, hey, are we on the right track here?
Yeah. I know early on with Veggie Tales, Scotty May, who was a professor, I think she just might have retired at Wheaton College. She was our advisor for that. She's Phil Vischer's mom. And so she was wonderful to have there. And now that I'm working with Tyndale, as I'm developing the books, and that's sort of the really wonderful thing as I'm going through developing the books and the stories and getting feedback from folks there. We're dialing in the lessons, and then the books become the blueprint. So there's a refinement
process there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the books then become the blueprint for the screenplays, which is great. And so they've been developed over a long period of time, vetted. The messages have really been fine tuned, and it'll be something that just translates really well to the screen.
Sure. Well, a couple of things. Number one, how can we pray for this project? And then I want to know, how can we find this more information about this?
Yeah. So, this is in God's hands. It's so interesting to see how the doors have been opening in ways that have just been amazing to me in this whole process. Even from getting it funded in the first place and how seamless and easy that was. None of us could really believe it. We're like, wow, this is just, God is moving here. It's just been amazing. And so just prayers that will continue to be open to God's leading and trust that this is going to be something that He's going to do. It's not going to be us. We're pulling off something like this is always difficult. There's always a lot of obstacles, but just that He would clear that path for us and make it possible. Yeah, the second part of the question is where can people find out? We have a website, www.deadseasquirrels.com, and as long as it's all one word, as long as you can spell squirrels correctly.
Don't worry about spelling squirrels correctly. Just remember firstpersoninterview.com, because we'll have a link there to this exciting new animated series, The Dead Sea Squirrels. You've been listening to Mike Nawrocki, who's giving his life to help young children hear and understand the stories and principles found in God's Word. I'm grateful to the Far East Broadcasting Company for making this program possible. FEBC is a broadcast ministry reaching millions of people with a message of the gospel and the teaching of God's Word, always in the local language. There's a daily radio program with Ed Cannon of FEBC on many radio stations, and now a weekly podcast telling the many stories of FEBC. Listen online when you visit FEBC.org. And don't forget to download our app for smartphones. The First Person Interview app is free. Search for First Person Interview in your app store. Now, with thanks to my friend and producer Joe Carlson, I'm Wayne Shepherd. Join us next time for First Person.